All right. Welcome to Evidence-Based Audio number 187. I know this is pretty late in the week and this is pretty late at night for me, but been super busy lately, and this is the time I have to do it, so this is the time I'm doing it. I'm forcing myself to deliver a show every week. I know I've had some bad ones, but I'm trying my hardest to keep this going. So here we go. So this is Evidence-Based Audio number 187, and this is cheap headphones. So first of all, I got a post from Jim Roseberry. If you don't know who he is, you should. If you're using a DAW of any sort, if you're using computers for music, Jim Roseberry and Vin Curliano are the two people I cite as experts. There's other experts, but these are the two guys that I go to when it comes to DAWs. He put up a post on the gear page that AMD's Ryzen 7 series has been released. 4.5 gigahertz base clock frequency, a 5.7 gigahertz turbo, 16 cores, 32 processing threads, and absolutely needs robust cooling. You can get it to run quiet, but it's definitely more complex than something like a 12700K. And he asked the questions, want to see the numbers compared to an M1 Max. And I think he's kidding, but, Vin Curliano alluded to M1 testing versus Intel's, and it sounded like what he found was that the hype was not necessarily accurate. And those of us who have run M1s compared to Intel's are kind of probably can tell you the same thing. I'm actually very surprised by how fast the Apple chips are, considering how little actual power they use. So the things will run on batteries for forever. But all that crazy hype, I don't think it was true. And when I tried it in applications that it was supposed to shine in, it really wasn't. Not only any faster, sometimes it was a little bit slower, but these AMDs, I always wonder. I still kind of stick with the Intels for the most part, but he seems to like these things. When it comes to round-trip latency, it's your single core's performance, your single core speed that really matters, or at least that's the way it was. At least that's the way I understand it. Not so much the multiple cores, but multiple cores will do other things for you. But, the base frequency here is 4.5 gigahertz, so that's nothing to sneeze at all. So we'll see how this is. But when he says absolutely needs robust cooling, that's might be a noisy thing with the maybe you put it in another room. I don't know. Says I expect the 7950 to best both the 5950X and the 12900Ks, both single core and multi-core. I'm most interested in ultra low latency audio performance. What are the absolute limits, and are they an improvement over the 5950X and the 12900KS? Is that 12900? Is that the 12th generation Intel? I think that is. So watch this space. And like we talked about before, Vin was going to release some numbers on the M1. Still waiting for that. So when I look at these Ryzens, if they're around, $550. Here's a 16 core right here. So that's $750. I remember there were some AMDs that Vin was calling unicorns because they looked good on paper, but it was really hard to get your hands on any of them. I think it's just like graphics card with all the crypto people out there. But interesting. This looks like a screamer. I'm not really interested in building a new desktop anytime soon, but who knows? Maybe I'll be swayed back to AMD. If you guys remember way at the beginning of Reaper, that system that I was doing everything on was a dual Opteron system. So that was AMD back then. All right, so let me we go to the gear page and they talk about a post about recording guitars. So the original poster says, I don't have a treated environment. I'm working with the Focusrite Scarlett. Is it worth investing in software to simulate an amp, or am I better off just miking amp with SM57 or two? The room my amp is in is carpeted. I'd also be open to adding some foam panels to the wall. So let's go through these things. It says, I don't have a treated environment working with the Focusrite Scarlett. There's nothing wrong with the Scarlett. There's a lot wrong with the treated environment, and I'm betting there's also some volume limits there. Is it worth investing in software to simulate an amp? I don't know. You can get a lot of good stuff for free, so maybe not. And you really can get excellent guitar tones for absolutely free. Am I better off just miking my amp with an SM57 or two? I don't think so. And got a lot of reasons for that. But there's just this attitude by people who don't do this stuff for a living that... hold on, let me shut this up. Hey. All right, sorry about that. That was way too loud for thinking, and I'm sure Nancy Pelosi's going to DMCA me for it, even though that's not anybody's recorded music. Anyways, people who don't record stuff for a living and like to give forum advice, like the same people who tell you can't put a this or that pickup in a mahogany guitar because of some magical tone wood, will always tell you that it's better to mic an amp than anything else. You just got to have a real mic, and that's just how it is. It's organic or whatever. But I don't think so. There's a lot of reasons for that. So it says the room my amp is in is carpeted. That may or may not be horrible. Could be okay. But I'd also be open to adding some foam panels to the walls. That ain't going to do jack. I mean, it really, really isn't. It's funny. He says a lot of people answer, as you'd expect, that putting a mic is always better than using some kind of software or using an impulse or whatever. The old saying, anecdotes. The plural of anecdote is anecdotes, not evidence. Evidence is something else. Let's see. Somebody says, I will offer this. A student from the gear page was sharing his recordings with me and asking for advice. He was using amp sims, and I was offering some advice to make them sound better. One week he sends me a track, and I reply, hey man, the guitars sound a lot better. What did you do? I mic'd my amp. Ooh, well. Thankfully, Mr. T ate my balls. Answers, this means very little. To the OP, just download some free demos of amp sims and see if you like it. Or just download free amp sims, because there are those things out there. Getting a good sound with a mic might be just as easy or not. For one, I am totally happy with complete silent recording in my home with amp sims. However, if you have the situation to crank up an amp and you already have your tone that you want, then a 57 may be a ticket for you. You can also have some fun mixing in other mics too, like ribbons, 421s, etc. I did all that and ended up preferring amp sims. So again, this isn't hyperbole. When these guys will claim that anytime you put a mic in front of something, it's going to be better than anything else in the universe, and any sims or modelers or impulses or whatever, he answers back with, actually, it means a lot. He used to spend lots of time tweaking and tweaking to end up with a sound that someone with good ears. I've been recording, listening, using high-end gear for over 20 years. Frankly, sounded bad. Then the first time he mics his amp, it's profoundly better sound, and I, as a listener, had no preconceived bias of being a real amp. I just listened and went, wow, that's better. That's pretty meaningful. Also, we're not talking about a cranked amp or a high-end setup. He stuck a dynamic mic in front of a mid-tier Marshall combo and ran it into an interface, instant, decent sound. So this is their thing. This is the kind of myths we're talking about all over the places. As long as it's natural, it's good. You know what? Asteroids are natural. I don't think you want one landing on your head. So Mr. TA My Ball says, sorry, it's still not meaningful at all. But arguing about it doesn't help the OP. Art Z. Okay, now here's a really good question. He asks, if you're close miking the amp, what difference does the room treatment make? Everything the 57 picks up is from right in front of it, which in this case is usually a speaker an inch or less away. It seems like if something's so loud, it's just not going to make any difference, whatever room sounds are there, but that's not true. If you actually watch some of Ethan Winder's video, it's amazing how loud or quiet some of the standing waves and cancellations can be in a small room. It's mind-blowing how much difference it makes, even to something as loud as a guitar amp into a 57 right up there. So let's see. So I give a little answer. Okay, so Slayer Bear says, I use an ABY box to record a DI and my mic cabs at the same time. I think he says my mic cabs. 9 times out of 10, the mic signal always wins, but it's also nice having a backup DI if something goes wrong, or in the end, the plugin suits the song client better. Let me, for anybody who's looking at this, I'm going to do a little thing on Reaper here. Let me find a guitar track. Okay, so is this, let me find this. Is this clean? Okay, so this is a clean guitar amp that you're looking at. So if I do something like let's put his Helix on here with some kind of distorted something. There we go. Okay, let me turn that down now. Sorry. Okay, so I'm gonna apply the effects here. Now watch what happens if I distort this. Sorry, it's taking a little while. I don't know what's going on here. I'm actually surprised by how long that's taking. Sure shouldn't. Okay, but look at the guitar now. So if I go back a take, you can tell where all the different notes are, no problem. But when it's distorted like this, it's just a blob. If I wasn't using spectral peaks, it would be a lot hard. If it's just one color, it'd be really hard to tell where the notes change compared to a clean signal. So it's really good to have a DI signal just for editing and stuff. You could lock it to your track and mute it. I did several videos on this back in the day, but you know, you can always fix it if you got the DI. So that's a good reason for having that. And let's see, let me go. You know, everybody says I would and do just mic the cab. You know, that's what everybody says. So I say, and I know this is kind of shots fired, but I say, the answer from those who don't record bands for a living will almost always answer to mic it. Really depends on how much you care about how it sounds and work with your recording and mix versus how much you care how the hoi polloi thinks you should do it. With your setup, I'd say forget miking it, but with almost any setup today, I'd say forget miking it. But I'm willing to commit blasphemy to try and do the best for the record. You know, and that's what it is in the end. Like what's going to sound best for your album? You know, it's usually the track that fits. But and I say you'd be pretty amazed when it comes to you know, close mic speakers, no matter how loud it is. And of course, there's pushback. Let's see. Somebody, I'm sure. Says, let's see. Well, I record me for a living and do mix for others, so I guess I'm those who don't record bands for a living. Well, they mic it. I guess he mics it. But your statement has me curious. I use every available option and nothing touches my mic stuff sonically. So convenience being a thing, I will use Sims hardware and or software. As much as I use Load, IR, or aux, still not being as cool as just sticking a lowly 57 in front of a Celestion without worrying about room or SPL. So, you know, he's this guy's having a good time just putting his mic in front of his amp. And if that's what he likes, then fine. But I think I'll tell you how I answer. I say, if it's turning out better for you, or more likely giving you more confidence so you can move on to what's important, in which case it's much better for you, I'd stick with it. And that's the truth. You know, if you're happy with what it's doing and you can get on to some other more important thing, then go for it. In my case, even given that we had The Room heard on so many albums back in the day as the guitar sound, that was the Chunk Chamber over at Vintage. You know, think about all the albums that's on. And knowing what it takes to get some of those multi-mic sounds, I'm so enthralled with how an Impulse can get me there, indistinguishable on an ABX test from that same mic setup, that's where I want to go. I don't want to discourage people from putting mics in front of things and learning about what they like and what they don't, and how minute changes in distance or angle really change things, and learning to predict what phenomenon will take place. We keep piles of pairs of multi-pattern mics around so students can try everything from rooms and Bloom lines and MS setups and you name it. But the truth is, whether people want to admit it or put their fingers in their ears and go full Luddite, is that so very often people have a specific sound, they heard on some album, and they want to get that. They can get 99 to 100% there nearly immediately with the right impulse for that mix, or they can follow the hoi polloi and put a single mic in front of their cabinet at realistic for their living situation volumes and end up with a phasey, comb-filtered, bumpy, muddy mess. But hey, it's all good because at least they stuck a real mic in front of a real amp like all the experts who never recorded anyone else said they should. And I know that's snarky, but really, you really think at home at volumes low enough to not piss off your neighbors, you're going to beat a professionally recorded cabinet in a proper studio at decent volumes? I don't think so. I've yet to hear it. I know there's a lot of people who claim it, but I've really yet to hear it. Okay, so that's something to think about. But, you know, if you want to stick mics in front of your amps, go for it. But I'm telling you, if you want to get work done, just use your Impulse or whatever. I got this in an email or an Instagram or something. It seems like this is 5 years old, 7 years old, but holy crap. I don't know if I heard of this or watch it was already on this show. Hopefully not. But this is from Sennheiser, you know, I guess who make headphones and mics, unveils $55,000 marble-clad valve amp Orpheus headphones. 8 hertz to 100 kilohertz frequency response and vacuum tubes that rise out of Carrara marble. I'm hoping this is a joke. But apparently there's a $55,000 set of headphones with some kind of vacuum tube amp or something. Says, for the uninitiated, the original Orpheus HE90 headphones were the result of Sennheiser's R&D mission in the 90s to build the best headphones ever made. It took until 2013 for Sennheiser's engineers to come up with the Orpheus HE90, and even then only 300 of the things were made, and attached to a $12,000 or 12,000 euro, $16,000 price tag. The high cost of the Orpheus is largely thanks to the extra electrostatic design, which works very differently to the 2-driver that you'd usually find in headphones, dynamic drivers, which are basically miniaturized speakers, and balanced armature drivers. Wow, this is edited horribly. So I guess it's a ribbon headphone, but for $55,000, you guys are nuts. All right, but that's the kind of stuff we always look out for around here. I heard of a product today, or not today, earlier this week, called Sonobus. It's an easy to use application for streaming high quality, low latency, peer-to-peer audio between devices over the internet or a local network. Multi-user, multi-platform, open source, completely free. So apparently this is kind of like virtual audio cable or something. So you can, well, we talk about all the time on this show, all the time, move audio between apps on Windows or Mac or whatever. I'm going to be trying this out, and we shall see. This could be really cool. I didn't realize it was free. So this works as a standalone application on Mac OS, Windows, iOS, GNU Linux, and as an audio plugin on Mac OS and Windows. And that's really a big part of how we wanted to do ours. And I think we still will be making something like this, but pretty comprehensive. This looks cool. I'm going to give this a try. Maybe I'll not be using OBS anymore. Who knows, you know? I mean, if I can get away from some of these problems, I'd be so happy. I'm giving up 4 channels on one of my RMEs just to make loopbacks. You know, that sucks. So I'll look into this more. All right. And okay, so I'm going to move on to Reaper here, and I want to show you guys something. This is always kind of a bummer. You guys know about dynamic stretch in Reaper. So like if I were to let's see, let me just go to the drums here. So if I take all the drums and group them together, and let's say I want to use the kick and use dynamic split in order to drop stretch markers in. Dynamic split. Okay, so I'm gonna go to the kick, and I'm gonna set the Control-Alt-Shift-T. I'm going to set the threshold to where, you know, I'm getting all the kick hits, which looks pretty good. So you see this is going to drop stretch markers on there. I have it set, instead of the split, I have it set to add stretch markers to selected items and grouped items. So wherever I drop this marker down, it's going to put it on the rest of the items in the group. So let's do that. Add stretch markers. Now, the problem is, that's great, but it didn't get the snares. It's just the kicks, right? So if I want to get the snares, if I ran dynamic split again, is it Control D? Yeah. If I ran dynamic split again, it's going to erase. Watch, I'll just do it. Bam. It's going to erase the ones on all the kicks. Actually, it didn't for some reason. That's interesting. That's not how this usually goes. Sorry. Wait a second. Okay, there's my stretch markers there. Control D. So if I add them on the snare, at least, unless Reaper just changed this. Holy crap. Wow, I think they did. Either that or oh, wow. Okay, I was going to show you a script, but looks like this adds now. I don't think this certainly didn't use to. This used to wipe out any. Oh, no. Okay. So check this out. What this did. Let me undo this again. When I do dynamic split on here, it actually did add it to the other tracks. I have no idea how, but it took away the ones from the kick. See that? It's missing here. Okay, so this is why it didn't even used to do this, so this is actually pretty cool. I would find a way to make this work, but so check this out. I'm going to duplicate this track, and I'm going to take it out of the group, and I'm going to take all the stretch markers out of it. Okay, so I have all the kick stretch markers across all these tracks. I have this spare snare top track, and I'm going to use that to generate another dynamic split. Or add the stretch markers. Okay, so you see those stretch markers now. I'm going to add them, and because it's not in a group, so only this one has it. I want to take all these stretch markers and I want to add them to the other tracks. I'm just going to do one right now so you can see how this works. So I'm going to go to actions, show action list. And this is from Repack. If we go to Repack here, browse packages, I'm going to go to MPL and I want to find some stretch stuff. Let's see. So from MPL, or actually I can just do stretch and then go by author. So I look through here, paste and replace stretch markers to selected items and copy selected item stretch markers. Okay, so there we go. You would install those ones. So let me put these up. So I'm going to go to the duplicated snare top track where I've already made those markers, and I'm going to copy selected item stretch markers. Okay, and I'm going to run another script that's going to paste them, and that's this one right here: paste and replace stretch markers to selected items. And when I run it, see that now I've added those stretch markers to the kick, and normally it would wipe them out just like dynamic split used to, but there's a line here. I think it's line 38 or 59 or something. MPL talks about it in the forum, but the line is delete. Actually, I'm so if you've never done this before, let me start this over. So this is a script. MPL paste and replace stretch markers to selected items. Lua. I'm going to go to edit action in the actions window when I've got it selected, and it's going to open up the actual script text, the code. And so the thing that we're going to comment out is this delete take stretch markers, take 0, whatever it says. When you comment that out, it'll actually not delete the old stretch markers. So the other problem with this is notice it only went to that one track. It doesn't do grouped items as far as I know. I asked MPL about it. I haven't gotten an answer. But if I just select all the drum tracks, and then if I do the paste and replace stretch markers, it's put it on all of the drum tracks. And then I would just take the duplicate track and delete it. So now you've got as much automatic as this thing can do, and you got it on everything. Let's see if MPL answered anything. Says when you click on a grouped item, it selects all items in a group, so the script adds markers to all the selected items, isn't it? No, that's not happening, but that's okay. And I'm sorry, this is kind of a short one today. I wanted to show you what this stretch marker thing more than anything else, because that really saves me some time nowadays. But I got to get out of here, and I'll be back next week with something. So see you guys later.